The Dodgers ended their losing streak and started a winning streak all on the same day. What a time. Shout out the Mets. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. From brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to bring home that big win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers, and you can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, which you can help yourself out by subscribing and get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube, like we are here once again. We are both lifelong Dodger fans, Jeff and I. If this is your first time listening or watching, that's Jeff. I'm Vince. And we've been doing this podcast here, specifically Locked On Dodgers, for a little over 5 years now. We've been doing a Dodger podcast a little bit longer than that. We've both been covering the Dodgers in a few different ways for about a decade now. So we've watched a lot of Dodgers. We've seen a lot of Dodgers. We've talked a lot about the Dodgers. And we're here to do that once again, hopefully bringing you some knowledgeable thoughts about the Dodgers and, making everybody a better Dodger fan day by day. And we're here to do that once again. And Jeff, the Dodgers came into this game, or these two games, not having won in a while. And then we got 2 wins in one day.
Yeah, you can't ask for much more than that. It's really hard to sweep a doubleheader, no matter how good you are and how bad the other team is. Winning 2 games in one day is hard. And it took a little while for the Dodgers to wake up. Today, it seemed like they were down 2-0 going into the top of the 8th inning, and which was frustrating because Tyler Glasnow pitched great. He made one bad pitch to Francisco Lindor. Didn't quite have the command. I think he walked 4 guys, and including walking the 9-hitter to lead off an inning, and then that cost him when Lindor hit the home run. But all in all, maybe it was the 8-hitter. I can't remember if there was anyway. Walking a bad hitter and to lead off an inning, ends up scoring on a home run. Other than that, that was the only bad pitch Glasnow threw, but he left the game trailing 2-0 and ultimately wasn't still around to get the win. But the good news was the Dodgers were around to get the win.
Yeah, we talked about the other day how the Dodgers can get out of this or what they need. And obviously hitting was a big part of it. But what we mentioned was the Dodgers need the starting pitching, somebody to step up and give them a performance. And, even though they almost spoiled Glasnow, they didn't get just one of those. They got 2 of those performances on Tuesday. One from Glasnow, 7 innings, 2 runs, and then one from Gavin Stone, 7 innings, no runs, sent a new career high in strikeouts. So it was exactly what the doctor ordered, which was a little bit of great starting pitching, some great bullpen, some timely offense, and the New York Mets, which definitely helped out a little bit, because in that 8th inning, the Dodgers tried to not score runs, but the Mets let them have one.
Yeah, the Dodgers hit into 3 double plays that inning, and the Mets turned none of them. So you know what, or they did eventually turn one after. Oh, no, that was in the 9th inning.
Yeah, it was 9th.
Yeah, so it was. It was. I see in our comments, BC says he was there, and he's the reason that the Dodgers broke the losing streak. Hey, whatever it takes, BC. Hope you're going to be there again tomorrow. But yeah, the starting pitching, the bullpen, everything about this on the pitching side was outstanding. The Dodgers got their 7th different pitcher to get a save this year. Blake Trinan got the save in the first game. So he's number 7 now. So we're 70% of the way to my preseason prediction, and we're only about less than 40% of the way through the season. So that's good news. All in all, it did seem like, and it's hard to tell because the Mets are bad, but the pitches that Glasnow and Stone and Vesia and Trinan and Hudson struggled. But he threw a scoreless inning. All in all, I mean, they threw some really good pitches. And the fact is the Dodgers played, 19 innings of baseball today, and they had to use 3 relief pitchers, I think. Was it just maybe 4?
Trying to invest Hudson. Maybe one more.
Yeah, there must have been one more in the first game. Somebody before Hudson, right?
Oh, Grove.
Oh, that's right, Michael Grove. But still, 4 relief pitchers total in 19 innings. That shows you how good the starting pitching was.
It's a good thing because they only have 4 legitimate relief pitchers right now, or 2 legitimate and 2 guys that have legitimate stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much how you can draw it up. Your starting pitcher goes 7. You're able to use the best arms out of your bullpen in game 1. You're able to use your best arms out of your bullpen in game 1. You're able to use your next best arm that didn't pitch in game 1 in game 2, and you're able to get through it. And even though offensively it was a struggle and it wasn't that great and everything else, it doesn't matter. Like when you win, you feel better. And I think they brought it a little bit into the second game, even though, they didn't score a lot of runs, but there was some good swings. There was, it was a more joyous time watching the Dodgers than it was in that first game. But yeah, I mean, when it really comes down to it, the starting pitching set the tone. And even though in the first game, Glasnow just keeping it to 2-0 is, a big part of it too, because the Dodgers have not been scoring runs. And while it's hard to be perfect, allowing no runs, it's pretty easy to keep your team in it. And if that lead had gotten to 3-4 runs, obviously the Dodgers probably don't win that. And it feels insurmountable just the way the Dodger offense was going. They got shut down by Tyler McGill on the Mets side. And, it was one of those things where, man, this is going to be really annoying. But Grove stepped up and got the job done. Hudson got the job done when he needed. It wasn't pretty. Got to silence the Mets crowd, and then, Blake trying to shut things down. So, yeah, all in all, the pitching really helped out. Offensively, they're still figuring things out. But when you do enough and your pitching helps you out, you're going to win a lot of games. And that's what the Dodgers had done before, and hopefully can keep moving on forward doing that.
I got to go on a tangent here. His name's Tyler McGill. I am firmly originalist when it comes to names. Tyler McGill was named Tyler McGill by his parents. They just spelled it with an OR to match up his brother Trevor McGill name ending in an OR. It was when Tyler McGill was in high school and he decided he wanted to be weird. That he decided he was going to pronounce it Tylor. So his parents named him Tyler. So at least for me, I am calling him Tyler McGill. I wish we could have called him losing pitcher today, but you know what? His team lost, and that's all that really matters to me. Daniel Hudson pitching the bottom of the ninth, even though he had some struggles, he came up clutch and, bases loaded, 1 out, 3-0 on the hitter in a tie game, bottom of the ninth inning. Like that is about the most pressure you can get. And he threw not just a strike, but a good strike. Like he hit the edge of the zone for strike 1. It wasn't, because Tyrone Taylor could have been up there swinging. Turns out that he had no interest in being the hero of that game. But he could have been up there swinging. You can't just throw it right down the middle there. He made a good pitch. Then he made a good pitch, actually a less good pitch for strike 2 once he realized that Tyrone Taylor maybe wasn't interested in playing. And then he gets out of that, gets a pop-up, and then gets Jeff McNeil. He's only a year and a half removed from winning a batting title. Like he's a good hitter. And Hudson just got him, got another pop-up, end of the inning, and set it up for the Dodgers to have a chance to score in extra innings. We'll talk more about the offense in the next segment, but like, Daniel Hudson had the worst day of any Dodgers reliever, and yet he also probably had the best moment of any Dodgers reliever today.
Yeah, definitely. You got all the social media. You got the social media moment for sure with quieting of the crowd. So, but like you mentioned, offense is next. Freddie Freeman specifically is all it's going to take for Freddie Freeman to get unlocked is playing the Mets again. It appears that he's stepping in the right direction. So we'll talk about it. Make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, LED headlights, exhaust kits, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. with all the parts you need at the prices you want. And it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to check us out every Monday through Friday, wherever you get your podcast, or right here on YouTube, where we're usually running things live these days. And remember, you can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day. You can go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers to go beyond the podcast and text directly with us, get news, updates, thoughts, and more. And you can even ask us questions or have reactions to the game or whatever you want to get into. And if you're on YouTube, you can go to Locked On Sports Today, Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from around the sports world and the LA sports world. All right, let's talk Freddie Freeman, because Freddie Freeman was a big reason the Dodgers won that first game, and someone that we've talked about a lot in recent days of being somebody that struggled, and especially with runners in scoring position and everything else. But he goes 3 for 5 in game 1 with 3 RBI. He goes another 2 hits, 2 for 3 in game 2. And in between games on the TBS broadcast, they kind of talked to him about, facing the Mets and why he has so much success. And, he kind of Freddie Freeman his way into the question of just, being humble and saying, oh, it's just a matter because I've played them a lot, or I used to play them a lot and everything else, blah, blah, blah. But who knows what it is? But if this is the series that gets Freddie Freeman going, I think it's going to be hugely beneficial, obviously, to the Dodgers. And the big thing with yesterday's game was that 3 of his hits were against fastballs that were above 95 miles an hour, which are things he's been struggling. But so I don't know, Jeff. I don't know if he found something, but he definitely found something yesterday.
Yeah, and 2 of his hits were against left-handed pitchers too. And another thing that he's struggled with more than usual this year. And yeah, it's easy to say it's just the Mets suck, blah, 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 which is true. But for Freddie Freeman specifically, like you said, he got 3 hits off hard fastballs. He got 2 hits off lefties. Like, even bad teams you can learn things from. And so even if you don't even if the Dodgers had lost both games, today would have been a very promising day for Freddie Freeman, seeing what he did. And instead they didn't lose both games because of him. He was a big part of the reason they won both games. And so obviously it's one day, it's 2 games. It's too early to say for sure, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we look back a month from now at this day and say, oh, that's when Freddie Freeman broke out of his slump and became Freddie Freeman again.
Yeah, not just the hits, but the power, the home run, not just in a huge moment to give the Dodgers, the extra cushion, but to see it. Like we haven't really seen the power from Freddie this year. And especially now like that, with the home runs in Korea, I remember those because he was one of the only ones that hit one that far out there. But other than that, we haven't seen it too much. That was, big to see. And like I said, he could go 5 tomorrow, and this is all for naught. But it's a matter of you play every day as you go forward, and that's what he's got to do. And, that's what he did yesterday. And if he did unlock something or figure something out, we know Freddie's, one of those guys who's big into his swing, and his swing is very unique. When you have guys with such a unique swing, it's something very little can kind of tweak it. And there's a reason he goes and takes batting practice with his dad sometimes when he gets a chance to, if he's struggling, because it's one little thing can unlock here and he can catch fire, and we've seen him catch fire. And for the Dodgers specifically, that's the guy they need in this lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And, there's a little element. This reminded me today of something I saw on my Facebook memories the other day from May 16th, 2013. You remember the Dodgers were really, really bad at the beginning of 2013. And I put on Facebook that day a screenshot from an article about the Dodger game. It said, Zach Greinke returned early from the disabled list, and the Los Angeles Dodgers offense is starting to pick up. Without looking, Vince, how many runs would you guess the Dodgers scored for the first paragraph of the article to talk about the offense starting to pick up? Oh, you're
without knowing, without giving the right answer that I think, because of the context of your question, I would say, well, like 8 runs.
The next paragraph: the last place Dodgers beat the Washington Nationals 3-1 on Wednesday night for their 4th win in 5 games. 3-1. 3 runs was considered offense starting to pick up. And as BC points out in the comments, the Dodgers scored 5 runs in 2 games today against a bad team, which is all true. But, everything has to start somewhere. And so we're looking at little things. And the fact is, the Reds are a bad team too, and the Reds just swept the Dodgers. So, you know what? We will take 2 wins over a bad team over getting swept by a bad team like we just got done doing. The Diamondbacks are below 500, or they, I don't know if they still are. I know they were when the Dodgers played them, and they beat 1, 2 out of 3. So when you're struggling, you take what you can get. And like we said, the Freddie Freeman performance was really, really good. The bottom of the lineup contributed. Let's talk about the bunt a little bit. That BC also points out it wasn't called an error, but you would hope the pitcher would make that play. That thing was dangerously close to being a double play. I think if Ottavino lays out for that, it was kind of funny. It was kind of in between a safety squeeze and a suicide squeeze, because I think Teoscar was basically like, it wasn't a suicide squeeze because he wasn't running on the pitch. But he did run when there was still a chance that Ottavino might catch that in the air. So it was kind of in between, more safety than suicide. But the fact is the ball did land. And I think the reason they didn't call an error is because Ottavino still picked up the ball in plenty of time to get Taylor out at first, but Taylor beat the second baseman to the bag. And so that's just a case of like Ottavino misplaying the grounder a little bit, didn't allow Taylor to get there safely. Taylor beating the second baseman to the bag did. And that's an infield hit every day. So I don't expect that scoring to be changed, but it was when Taylor came up first and third, nobody out there, Dodgers down by 1 run. Part of me was thinking they need to send Miguel Rojas up there because he'll at least put the ball in play and give us a chance of a sac fly. But I had just had the thought but Taylor's one of the few guys on the team who can actually bunt a little bit. And it's kind of gift wrapped to put Chris Taylor up in a situation where one of the very few situations where a bunt's actually a good thing.
Yeah, and for Ottavino, it's more about movement than straight velocity, and the movement is more horizontal than vertical. So for the most part, so it was a good time to try a bunt, and we remember the other day when the Dodgers tried to bunt, and it didn't work out. Kike popped it up. Somebody popped it up, and I'm always an advocate for people think bunting is some magic tool that's going to fix everything. People put a lot of stock into bunting when bunting is not a part of the game anymore. It's very hard to bunt 98, 99, 100 miles an hour with movement. And it's not just a quick snap of the wrist and boom, you get a bunt down and everything goes perfectly. It doesn't work out a lot of times. And this one was very close to that disaster, but it didn't. And honestly, had it been a double play, I don't think I would have been as upset as in other times because, what else are you?
It's the right call because the alternative is Chris Taylor striking out.
Yeah, what else was what were you planning on happening? Even if Taylor has had some better swings of late, it's and even though it is the Mets, it's not something that oh my god, whatever. Now, if it had been somebody else that has been hitting better, then yeah, of course, but. With Taylor right there in the moment, it was the right call. And, I'm glad it worked out, obviously, because if not, it would have just been it would have added to the frustration of that first game of not being able to score runs. And then that happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, we have a comment from Elisheva saying small ball is still legit in baseball. My issue with small ball is that it means something different to everybody. So I'd have to know what she means by small ball to know if I agree. There's times when I think bunting is bunting. If you can bunt for a hit, I'm always in favor of that. Trading it out for a run, I am always in favor of. Pretty much, I guess if you're down by 6 runs in the 9th inning, I wouldn't like a squeeze bunt. But in general, anytime you would realistically consider squeezing, if you can execute, I love it. But sack bunts in general, I think are bad because the only thing in baseball that you're limited on is the number of outs you get in a game, and giving away an out on purpose, the payoff usually isn't good enough. But when it is Chris Taylor and the literal tying run on third base, absolutely in favor of that. And even if he had just bunted it hard right back to the pitcher, because it was a safety squeeze, Teoscar, could have stayed at third. And so it's pretty low risk. Worst case scenario, Taylor's trading places, a different run, Taylor's at first base after they get a force out at second, but chances are they probably, even if Taylor gets the bunt down on the ground, but too hard to score Teoscar, they're probably not going to risk the throw to second because that does give Teoscar a chance to score. So it probably does make it second and third. So he gets a sack bunt anyway. So there's times, but yeah, small ball depends on what you mean by small ball, because the fact is getting out on purpose,
on execution.
Yeah. And that's the thing, because it's not, like you said, it's not as easy. People say, well, hit behind the run. And actually, what, maybe I'll bring up this point in the next segment. So,
all right, more offense talk coming, especially when it comes to the bottom of the order, which did help the Dodgers get these 2 wins. So we're going to get into it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all in the NBA and NHL. There's only one NBA series left, but there's still a couple NHL series. And FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Had you bet on the Dodgers and any of the games on Tuesday and put down at least $5, then you would have been qualified for these bonus bets. And if you're looking at tomorrow's game, James Paxton's on the mound for the Dodgers. They are currently minus 136 to win the game straight up on the money line. The over-under is set at 8.5. You get better odds if you take the under, actually, than the over, which is interesting considering the 2 offenses aren't that great. But either way, you put down one bet, $5, you get 150 in bonus bets to put down on more things that you want to check out. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every moment count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I want to thank you for being an everydayer. If you are one, we are here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes. You can find us where we get podcasts and on YouTube. If you want to go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider, you can do so at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You'll get text directly from us with news, breaking news, thoughts, reactions, and other quirks and stats that we may find. And you can also just text with us directly and ask us questions or comments or whatever else you want to do. So go check that out. And Jeff, let's talk more about the Dodger offense, specifically the bottom of the order, but I'll let you finish your point first.
Yeah, it was just a thought I had during the first game, early in the game, after Teoscar Hernandez's leadoff double, the one that was almost a home run. Tyrone Taylor robbed the homer, but couldn't keep the ball in his glove, so Teo gets a double. Then Gavin Lux came up, and I asked about this on Twitter, and which is usually a bad idea. Between character limits and I don't know if Twitter turns off people's brain cells or not, but sometimes you ask a straightforward question and people think that you're saying something different. And I don't know I don't want to have to start every tweet with, I just mean the words in this tweet. But there were a couple times today I wish, but my thought was, I wonder if Gavin Lux's mindset is different when he comes up there with a runner on second, nobody out, knowing Chris Taylor's batting behind him, knowing that, because we know for a fact that Gavin Lux can ground out to second base. Like we've seen that plenty. That's in his toolbox. But Gavin Lux, when he's trying to get a hit, his best approach is, try the left center kind of approach of Freddie Freeman. And what we saw was Gavin Lux hit a lazy fly out to left field because he was trying to get a hit. And I wonder if some of that was because he knew there's no point getting a productive out here because Chris Taylor's going to strike out next. And so there's not a chance for a sac fly. And that's kind of where the whole, and I'm sure it wasn't that explicit in his mind, but I think because of Chris Taylor's inability to hit the ball, it affects other guys knowing there's a little more pressure on them to get a hit. Rather, there's less value in a productive out when the guys behind you aren't going to cash in on it,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the thinking goes that deep, but it's possible, for sure. But speaking on bottom of the lineup, the Dodgers, the bottom of the lineup starts a little bit earlier than some teams at the moment, especially when Max Muncy's out and especially when Otani sits out. But, you look at it and it's still not great, but you had 3 hits from 6 through 9 in game one, and Andy Paez scored twice. Once was because he hit into double play before that, but he had those 3 hits. Andy Paez hit the ball hard a few times. One of them, was unlucky that it ended up being a double play. And then you go into game two, and Paez had a couple hits. Vargas hit a home run. Miguel Rojas had a hit. Austin Barnes had a hit. So it didn't lead to a lot of runs, but it led to wins and it helped out. And that's really all you can ask for because, when Mookie and Freddie are hitting well, Tani's been struggling a little bit recently, but you need those guys at the bottom just to do enough, at least get on base, give the top of the order a chance, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And that's what they did. And that's, the runs scored in that ninth inning were from the bottom of the order because the top of the 10th started with Mookie Betts. So it was a necessary thing for them to be successful, whether it, 1 for 5, 1 for 4. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You get the win. And I think that's all we're looking for from the bottom of the order. And I don't think it's, like I said, just like with Freddie Freeman, I don't think it's fixed, but it was nice to see some better at-bats.
Yeah, and the two legitimate hits in that ninth inning were from the 5 and 6 hitters, Teoscar and Lux. Chris Taylor technically had a hit on the bunt, but then Jason Hayward struck out. Somebody asked in the chat why Roy Estrada asked why didn't they have Hayward bunt there. I had that thought too. Jason Hayward doesn't have a sacrifice bunt since 2017. I don't know if the current version of Jason Hayward can bunt. I definitely, after Chris Taylor's successful squeeze bunt, still no outs, runners on first and second, I definitely would have had Hayward bunt if Hayward can bunt. I don't know if it's a Hayward can't bunt thing or, he's not struggling badly enough to ask him to bunt. I don't know, but that there, when you've already tied the game, you've still got 2 guys on, nobody out. And then Andy Paez and then Mookie Betts coming up. I definitely would have tried to get 2 guys in scoring position. So I have to assume that Dave Roberts probably isn't confident in Jason Hayward's ability to bunt.
That's got to be it because it opens up a door. Well, basically opens the door for Mookie Betts to get in that inning because, if you do with the successful bunt, obviously, and that's a lot easier said than done, but a successful bunt, they're not going to walk Andy Paez to get to Mookie Betts, even if it is to load the bases. And if Andy Paez hits the ball hard right at the shortstop, it's not going to be a double play unless there's some bad base running involved. And then you get Mookie Betts with the chance. And, Mookie, of all the guys in the lineup, Mookie's, one of the best chances to get a run home or to get a base hit or whatever the case is. So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen it there. But, again, it's one of those where maybe you're playing with house money at that point, and that's what he felt like.
Yeah, maybe. And, again, it did all work out. I do think it does kind of underscore, like, there's definitely still holes at the bottom of that lineup. Even if they continue to play the way they did today, even if this was turning a page, it's still not great. Like the fact is Chris Taylor, I love him. I love all that he's done for the Dodgers. We said a month ago that we think he's done. And, he hasn't really done anything. And I feel bad saying this on a day that he literally drove in the tying run with the bunt. But we can't count on him coming up with first and third, nobody out every time up. If we could, sweet. Squeeze bunt all the time. But the fact is sometimes you need hits. And I don't know that Chris Taylor has enough hits in him to justify a roster spot anymore. And if Miguel Vargas is going to hit, obviously he doesn't have the defensive value that Chris Taylor does. He played today because it was a doubleheader, but he did hit, and he also played good defense. He held Taylor to a single on that broken bat down the left field line. maybe he's showing them something. I don't know. There's so many questions here, and I have full confidence that Dodgers are going to answer them, if not as quickly as fans would like them to. But there's definite holes at the bottom of that lineup still.
Yeah. And again, it's one of those where it's not going to get fixed by trade right now. It's not going to get fixed by, even if Max Muncy comes back, the bottom, it's still 7, 8, 9 instead of 6, 7, 8, 9 that are not great. So it's one of those where at this point, all you can root for is them to play better. And, there's really no other thing to do. Like as a Dodger fan, you can be doom and gloom and all, the bottom of the order sucks and, Chris Taylor sucks and whatever the case is. And that might be, your way of being a fan at the time. But if he doesn't improve, if Lux doesn't improve, if Hayward doesn't improve, if Pius doesn't improve, that's not good for the Dodgers. And that, makes them, I don't know if it makes them desperate for a trade at the deadline or anything like that, because Andrew Friedman has shown himself not to be that. But it does make you think like, man, like this team has a big hole at the bottom, and I don't know if the top is enough to overcome. So we root for them. We hope that they do better. And, we talk about them objectively on this podcast, and that's all we can do. But hopefully, we just need like 240 out of everybody hitting our on base, getting on base at a 300 clip, maybe 240. Like we don't need anything crazy at this point. So we'll see.
Yeah. And obviously the big guys need to pick things up. Quick thing I want to touch on. One of our new insiders, Wayne Beckham, asked if we think that Dave Roberts' decision to give Ohtani the game off in the second game is a sign that maybe the injury is more serious than we were told. I don't think so. I think it's the fact that Dodgers have another day game on Wednesday. And so basically they're playing 3 games in 26 hours. I think it was basically, if you don't want Ohtani running full speed, you also don't want him playing 3 games in 24 hours, probably, or 26 hours. So I think it was probably as simple as that. And I also thought it was interesting that they called up Nick Ramirez as the 27th man and then didn't use him. So
yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, I mean, for Ohtani, they basically said they didn't want him to, be hot and then go, even though they only had like 30 minutes in between games, and then get hot again. If you're struggling with the hamstring, up, down like that is not the best thing for you. So,
yep.
But we'll see. It's one of those where if he doesn't continue to hit, do they think about it more that it is a hamstring? And that's another question for another day. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But the Dodgers close it out, going for the sweep before coming back home for the weekend, and then heading back to New York after that. So that's all. Unless you got anything else, Jeff?
Nope.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube. We're here for you every Monday through Friday for about 30 minutes. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell any Dodger fans in your life. Spread the word, spread the good word of Locked On Dodgers. If you want to go beyond the podcast, you can do so at joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Get text directly from us, have priority on questions sent to the show and all that type of stuff. So go check it out. You can also check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles from those are 2 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from around the sports world and the LA sports world. You can also find us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snydog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, text my device by podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.